Welcome back to Vox in a Box, the podcast that puts the voice in comics. I'm your host, Michael Corley. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we are covering Classic X-Men number 77. In this 77th episode of Vox in a Box, titled To Have and Have Not, we see outside Tokyo. It's a nice part of town, but the captions say that even in nice places can sometimes get rowdy. We see two young men being thrown out of a window. What is going on? We see Wolverine and Rogue. They are finding out information as to the whereabouts of the Silver Samurai. In last issue, Silver Samurai and his partner Viper tried to kill Mariko, that is Wolverine's fiancée, and take over her father's crime lord syndicate. Wolverine has one man by the throat, his fists ready to give him a pummeling. The man doesn't want to talk, and Wolverine says, "Then, bub, you've got a serious problem." From behind, someone sneaks up on Rogue and stabs her in the back with a sai. You know those things Raphael from the Ninja Turtles uses? Yes, stabs her in the back with a sai. Rogue is now dead. No, this is a wonderful way to show that Rogue is nearly invulnerable, having absorbed Carol Danvers' powers. She has super strength, flight, and almost pure invulnerability. The sai actually bends. She grabs the man and gives him a toss. Wolverine is also looking for the ultimate source of this problem, the grand controller of the Yakuza, the Japanese crime families, Nabatone, the old man who had set up the meeting where the fight had ensued last night. Rogue is asking, what is their next move? And Wolverine is saying, we're going to find him, and then things are going to get nasty. In another part of Tokyo, we see Yukio, that is the young woman who has been aiding the X-Men for reasons of her own, has teamed up with Storm. Storm is recovering from her injuries where her power went out of control with her lightning. She and Yukio are trying to make their way back to the hospital. Yukio is asking for aid from one of her friends. The man denies her because Yukio is so dangerous to be around right now because of the Yakuza, and in fact, his gang comes out to beat up and perhaps kill the two women. Yukio says 3-1 odds. That hardly seems like a fair fight. And we see Storm becoming infected by Yukio's wildness, by her zest for life, by her not caring whether she lives or dies. And the young men approach with knives drawn. Back to Rogue and Wolverine, we see she is flying him up to the upper stories of the crime lord's estate. As they make their way inside, Wolverine is telling her to be quiet, to be cautious, to follow his lead. And she's being very lackadaisical. She doesn't really care. She says, I'm invulnerable. It doesn't matter. And Wolverine tells her famous last words. She walks ahead, trips an electronic wire, and a probe comes out with a laser beam, fires. Wolverine trips her up and then lets her fall. The beam fires, disintegrating a statue nearby. Wolverine is thinking to himself, he doesn't actually know what Rogue's upper limit of her invulnerability is, but he has no urge to test it out right now while he needs her. They are now lying on top of each other, and Rogue says, you deserve a reward. She leans forward to kiss Wolverine, only to find she's been stopped. Wolverine has put his fist underneath her chin. A mental trigger will send the 3 blades up into her skull. There's no telling whether or not she'd be able to repel the adamantium claws with her partial invulnerability. Wolverine says, don't ever try a stunt like that again. She says, I didn't mean any harm. And Wolverine says, that's the only reason that you're still breathing. Wolverine makes it up to the crime lord's private chambers, and he is sitting. But Wolverine knows what they will find in an instant with his enhanced senses. This man is dead, and has been dead for some time. But Rogue is asking, but he was at that meeting. How could he have been there if he's been dead for weeks? And Wolverine says, whoever was at that meeting was an imposter. We cut back to Storm and Yuriko. They are taking down the thugs handily. Storm is using her lightning, even though she does not have complete control over it. She is telling Yuriko as they finish them off that she has never used her power to purposely inflict pain on someone else. She's used it to stop people. She's used it to try to stop villains from destroying the earth, but she's never actually used her lightning to hurt someone because she wanted to hurt them. Yukio is saying, why should you care? These guys would have killed you in a heartbeat. And Storm says that she doesn't care what's gotten into her because of hanging out with Yukio. She welcomes it, and she fires a giant blast of lightning up into the sky. Wolverine has realized this entire hunt for the crime lord has only been a distraction. The distraction so that Viper and the Silver Samurai could come and finish the rest of the X-Men while they were injured. We see guards at the X-Men and Mariko's chambers, but they are killed by throwing stars. Viper is leading a group of ninjas. Yes, ninjas! I love ninjas! And they have come to kill the X-Men. But before they can get through the doors, Rogue comes flying out. She grabs all 6 ninjas and dumps them outside onto the ground. The Viper is yelling, "She's only a girl, kill her!" Which is a hilarious thing when she's flying around like that. But Viper doesn't care about these ninjas. She just wants them to distract Rogue long enough for her to finish the job. Now it's come down between the Silver Samurai and Wolverine. The Silver Samurai especially hates Wolverine because he is wanting to marry the Silver Samurai's half-sister. He doesn't believe that, even though he hates Mariko, even though he wants her dead, he doesn't believe that this Gaijin, he doesn't believe Wolverine is worthy to even look at her. He flies at Wolverine with his samurai sword, charged with energy. Wolverine is able to block the first blow, and Wolverine counters by slashing into his armor. The Silver Samurai slashes into Wolverine's arm. Wolverine counters with a back kick, slashes at the Silver Samurai's face, cutting through his face gear. But the Silver Samurai lets Wolverine do this to bring him in close, wraps his arm around Wolverine, and stabs him through the chest. As he brings it out, Wolverine returns with a punch to his chest. The Silver Samurai stabbed Wolverine in the back of the neck. Any normal human would be cut in half, but we know that Wolverine's bones are laced with adamantium. Wolverine grabs the arm that stabbed him and breaks it with a snap. He then pulls out his claws to finish the Silver Samurai. When Mariko comes out of nowhere and says, "Logan-san, no! Enough blood has been spilled. My half-brother has lost. Grant him his life." And Wolverine is telling her, look, he's just going to keep coming back until one of you is dead. Only to find that Viper has snuck up behind them all and at a good distance where they can't approach, where Wolverine's claws are of no use. She has a powerful gun trained on Mariko. The Silver Samurai stands clutching his broken arm and says, "Forgive me, your humble servant, Viper mistress. I have failed you." Viper is angry. Clearly, Viper and the Silver Samurai have something special to each other because she is furious by this. She pulls out her gun. This is no normal-looking gun. This is some kind of fancy, schmancy ray gun. She fires. The bolt will kill Wolverine, melting his skin when it hits him, only to have Rogue flying in faster than the beam, pushing Wolverine and Mariko out of the way and blocking the beam. As Wolverine and Mariko are knocked down, she takes the punishment. She takes it further and further, and Rogue is in horrible pain. She hasn't felt pain like this since she's gotten Carol Danvers' powers. She's burning, but she doesn't want to give up. If she steps aside, Wolverine or Mariko may be killed. Wolverine calls out for Rogue! And at that moment, the gun, never meant to be used for this long at once, overheats and explodes in Viper's hands. Viper takes the opportunity to use the same teleporter technology that the Silver Samurai had used in the last issue to teleport both of them to safety. And we see Rogue, her chest is a mass of burning energy. Plasma is eating its way through her skin. Soon, she will be dead. Wolverine tells her the only way to save her is to lend his power to her, to let her steal his healing ability. And she's saying, no, don't do it. You've already been injured. You've been terribly wounded by the Silver Samurai. If you give me your power now, you might die. And Wolverine says, my risk. Besides, darling, who's going to stop me? And he kisses Rogue. And if you remember from the first X-Men movie, this is in fact the scene in the climax where Wolverine gives his power to Rogue in order to save her. A week later, everything is okay, and they are preparing for the wedding of Mariko and Logan. As Mariko wanders in her garden, a man approaches. He says, a friend. He says, I wish to speak with you. Mariko pauses as a light flashes over her eyes. She doesn't know what's happened, but something has changed. Back to the wedding ceremony, everyone is there. All of the X-Men, also Xavier and his love, Lilandra, the alien princess, but also some newcomers. That is Corsair, father of Alex and Scott Summers, Lorna Dane, that is Havoc's girlfriend, and Madeline Pryor, the woman who looks just like Jean Grey. Lilandra freaks out. Now remember, Lilandra and her people were the ones who wanted to kill Phoenix. She pulls out her lightsaber-looking thing, and she's going to chop Madeline Pryor in half. But Colossus is able to restrain her, and they explain that there is only a resemblance. Just a little pro tip here, don't look like Jean Grey and be around Lilandra. And while all of the X-Men are there, we're missing one important one. It is Storm. Where is she? We see her flying back and landing. And Storm looks completely different. Her week spent with Yuriko has changed her. Not only is she wearing very tight leather clothing with a leather vest, but she has turned her long white hair into a mohawk and is wearing, shall we say, very 80s makeup in a very dramatic style. Kitty is horrified. Remember that Storm is like a mother figure to her, and she runs away crying. This is just too much of a shock. Later, Kitty is helping out with the ceremony. She's sort of like a bridesmaid for this Japanese event, and she asks Madeline if she will watch her pet while she goes to help prepare for the ceremony. And Madeline thinks, oh, well, I'm good with cats. I'll be able to help. Lockheed is a cute name, and she opens the bundle, and there's a sleeping dragon inside. And in a wonderful 4-panel, Madeline stares out into nothing, slowly reaches over, grabs Scott by the tie, drags him close, turns and says, just who are these people, and what the blazes have you gotten me into? Getting in with the X-Men is always an interesting experience. But now it's time for the wedding. We see Wolverine in traditional Japanese garb, waiting for Mariko. She comes to the front and says, stop the ceremony. Imperial Majesty, honored guests, there will be no wedding. And when Wolverine asks why, she says, because you are not worthy. What can Wolverine do? She's just said that she does not want him, that he's not worthy. He has no choice but to turn and walk away. And as Mariko walks out of the hall, we see a man standing there, a man dressed in 18th century clothes with mutton chops, smoking a cigarette. Though we never see his face, there can be no doubt that this is Mastermind. Somehow Mastermind has used his power of mind and illusion to change Mariko's feelings towards Wolverine. And in the final panel, as the X-Men shuffle out, we see Wolverine looking into the distance and a single tear falling from his face. And that ends Classic X-Men number 77. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you like this storyline, again, this is going to be the basis for the new Wolverine movie coming out, which I'm actually looking forward to. Did not really care for the first Wolverine movie, but let's keep a good outlook. Perhaps by the time you're listening to this, it's already come out and it was fantastic. If you have a certain feeling about these storylines with Wolverine in Japan, email me. Let me know about it. Michael@VoxBoxComics.com. You have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.